The forgotten sun, the weight of invisibility. Jasper Vale pressed his palm against the cold viewport, watching ships drift through the darkness beyond Haven Station. 19 years old, and he felt ancient, worn down by 3 years of cleaning plasma, conduits and replacing burnt-out circuits in sections nobody else wanted to visit. The work was honest but soul-crushing in its monotony. Dreaming again, Jas? Celestine's voice cut through his thoughts like warm honey. She appeared beside him, her maintenance jumpsuit smudged with grease, auburn hair escaping from its tie in wild curls. Even exhausted and dirty, she made his heart stutter. Just thinking about how small we are, Jasper replied, gesturing to the vast expanse of space. Millions of stars out there, and we're stuck cleaning filters. Celestine bumped her shoulder against his, a gesture they'd shared since childhood in the station's lower decks. Small jobs keep big stations running. Besides, someone has to do it. Her green eyes sparkled with mischief, though I wouldn't mind if that someone wasn't always us. They walked together through the maintenance corridors, their footsteps echoing off metal walls. Haven Station housed 50,000 souls, a thriving colony that served as humanity's furthest outpost. Most citizens never saw these narrow passages where Jasper and Celestine spent their days keeping life support functioning and power flowing. Did you feel that? Jasper stopped suddenly, his hand reaching out to steady himself against the wall. Feel what? Celestine frowned, checking her diagnostic scanner. Systems are normal. No pressure fluctuations, no power drops. But Jasper felt something else entirely. A presence in his mind, vast and ancient and sorrowful. It had started 3 months ago, a whisper at the edge of consciousness that grew stronger each day. Emotions that weren't his own bleeding through some invisible barrier. Loneliness that spanned millennia. Rage trapped in eternal silence. And underneath it all, desperate hope. Never mind, he said quickly, seeing Celestine's concerned expression. Probably just tired. She touched his arm gently, her fingers warm through his sleeve. You've been saying that a lot lately. Maybe you should see medical. I'm fine, Celly. Really? But he wasn't fine. The presence in his mind grew stronger every hour, and with it came visions. Massive wings spreading across star fields, eyes that held the light of dying suns, scales that shimmered with colors beyond human perception, and always, the overwhelming sense of beings trying desperately to communicate something vital. The prophecy of embers. That night, Jasper couldn't sleep. He lay in his cramped quarters, staring at the ceiling while the presence pressed against his consciousness like a storm trying to break through a dam. Finally, he gave in and opened himself to it. The flood nearly drowned him. He saw them clearly for the first time. Dragons, impossibly enormous and terrifyingly beautiful. They existed in the Crimson Nebula, visible from Haven Station's viewports, but dismissed by scientists as natural phenomenon. The swirling red clouds were no mere space dust. They were a prison, a dimensional cage holding beings older than human civilization. Why me? Jasper whispered into the darkness. I'm nobody, just a maintenance worker nobody notices. A voice answered, deep as collapsing stars. Because you can hear us, Starborn. Because your consciousness resonates with frequencies others cannot perceive. You are the bridge we have waited centuries to find. What do you want? To warn you, the hunger approaches. It consumes all consciousness in its path, leaving only empty matter behind. Your station, your people, your entire species stands in its way. Without our help, humanity will fall. Without your help, we cannot manifest to fight. Jasper sat up, heart pounding. How long? 5 days until the hunger reaches your station, perhaps less. Why should I believe you? Why should anyone believe me? Because you feel the truth in our words. Because you have always sensed what others could not. Because when you look at your Celestine, you know she is the other half of your soul, just as you know we speak truly now. The mention of Celestine made Jasper's chest tighten. He'd loved her since they were children but never found the courage to tell her. They were too different. She was brilliant and brave, destined for better things. He was forgettable, average in every measurable way. You are not average, Starborn. You carry within you the ability to bridge worlds. That is rarer than any genius, more valuable than any skill. Your people called such as you prophets once, dreamwalkers, seers. Now you simply think yourselves broken, but you are magnificent. The warning falls on deaf ears. The next morning, Jasper requested an emergency meeting with Station Director Hollis Park. He waited 3 hours in an antechamber before being granted 5 minutes. Director Park was a severe woman with iron gray hair and the perpetual expression of someone solving complex equations in her head. She listened to Jasper's warning with increasing skepticism. Dragons in the nebula, she repeated flatly. Consciousness-eating entities. Mental communications. She folded her hands on her desk. Mr. Vale, have you been under unusual stress? Perhaps exposure to plasma radiation? I know how it sounds, Jasper said desperately, but I'm telling the truth. Something is coming. Something terrible. The dragons can help us if we let them. The dragons you claim to be speaking with telepathically. Park's tone made clear what she thought of his sanity. Mr. Vale, I'm going to recommend you for psychological evaluation. In the meantime, you're suspended from duty pending medical clearance. You're not listening. People are going to die. That's enough. Park stood, signaling security. Please escort Mr. Vale to medical, gently. Jasper didn't resist as guards led him away. What was the point? He was just the invisible maintenance worker with a crazy story. Nobody would ever believe him. Nobody except maybe Celestine. He found her in the lower engineering bay, recalibrating power regulators. When she saw his face, she immediately set down her tools. What happened? They think I'm insane. Jasper sank onto a storage crate, exhaustion overwhelming him. Maybe I am. Celestine sat beside him, close enough that their legs touched. Tell me everything. Not the sanitized version you told Park. Everything you've been hiding. So he did. He told her about the voices, the visions, the dragons trapped in the nebula, and the hunger approaching Haven Station. He told her about feeling small and invisible his entire life, about sensing emotions from machinery, and knowing when systems would fail before diagnostics showed problems. He told her everything, expecting her to pull away in horror. Instead, Celestine took his hand. Her touch sent electricity through his entire body. I believe you, she said simply. Why? Everyone else thinks I'm broken. Because I've watched you predict equipment failures for 3 years. Because you always know when I'm upset even when I hide it. Because you're the kindest person I've ever met and kind people don't suddenly become delusional. She squeezed his hand. And because when you talk about the dragons, your eyes light up the way they do when you look at the stars. That's not madness, Jazz, that's wonder. Jasper felt tears prick his eyes. Sally, I know, she interrupted gently. I've known for years. I was just waiting for you to figure it out. She smiled, soft and devastating. We'll prove you're right together, but first you need to teach me how to hear them too. In that moment, with Celestine's hand in his and determination blazing in her eyes, Jasper felt something shift. Maybe he wasn't invisible after all. Maybe being ordinary was just the disguise. Heroes war before the universe demanded they become extraordinary. In the Crimson Nebula, ancient eyes watched with growing hope. The Starborn had found his anchor. Now the real work could begin. The awakening bond. The touch of ancient mind Celestine sat cross-legged on the floor of Jasper's quarters, her eyes closed in concentration. For 2 hours she'd been trying to open her mind the way he'd described, reaching out toward the presence that haunted him constantly. I don't feel anything, she said, frustration creeping into her voice. Maybe I'm not like you. Maybe I can't. You're trying too hard, Jasper interrupted gently. He moved to sit behind her, hesitating only a moment before placing his hands on her shoulders. The contact sent warmth flooding through him. Stop forcing it. Just be open, like standing in rain and letting it soak into you. Celestine leaned back slightly against him, and Jasper's breath caught. They'd been friends forever, but this intimacy was new, thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. He could feel her heartbeat through their connection, sense the determination and trust flowing from her consciousness. "I feel something," Celestine whispered, "like music too deep to hear properly, or maybe thunder from very far away." "That's them," Jasper confirmed. "The dragons. They're always there, pressing against the barrier between dimensions. Let them in, Sally. They won't hurt you." He felt the moment she succeeded. Her body went rigid, then relaxed completely as the dragon consciousness touched hers. Through their physical connection, Jasper experienced it alongside her, the overwhelming rush of ancient wisdom, the terrible beauty of minds that had witnessed the birth and death of stars. "Oh," Celestine breathed. "Oh, Jas, they're magnificent." A voice resonated through both their minds simultaneously, powerful and masculine, carrying the weight of countless centuries. "At last, another who can hear." "Welcome, Flameheart. We are Sovereign Thornwing and Lady Emberstride, last monarchs of the eternal flight." Jasper felt Celestine's wonder mixing with his own. The dragons showed them visions, memories from when their kind ruled vast stretches of the galaxy. Civilizations built on principles of consciousness expansion, where thought and matter danced together in perfect harmony. Then came the fall, the dimensional war that forced the dragons to hide themselves away, abandoning physical form to survive. "Why are you imprisoned?" Celestine asked aloud. Lady Emberstride answered, her voice like silk woven from starlight. "We sealed ourselves here willingly, child. The hunger cannot touch beings of pure consciousness, but neither can we affect the physical realm without anchor. For 3,000 years we have watched, waiting for minds capable of bridging both worlds. And now the hunger comes for humanity," Jasper said. "You need us to give you form again." "Precisely, Starborn. But understand, this is no simple possession. We seek fusion. True unity between our consciousness and yours. Human creativity bound to dragon power. Your passion merged with our wisdom. It requires perfect trust, perfect harmony between participants." Sovereign Thornwing's presence intensified. "We have attempted this 17 times across history with other species. 14 failed catastrophically, minds shattered by the merging. 3 succeeded, but only briefly. The bonds could not hold long enough to defeat the hunger. Those civilizations fell. What makes you think we'll succeed?" Celestine asked, though Jasper could feel her fear mixing with determination. "Because you two share something unique," Lady Emberstride said warmly. "A soul bond that transcends single lifetimes. We have observed your connection, felt how your consciousness resonates in harmony. Separately, you are strong. Together, you could anchor not just us, but hundreds of willing humans in a unified defensive matrix." Jasper and Celestine looked at each other, suddenly aware of how close they sat, how naturally their minds had synced during the communication. Heat bloomed between them, something deeper than friendship finally acknowledged. "We need to convince others," Jasper said, struggling to focus. "The station director thinks I'm delusional. Security is probably monitoring me. How do we make them believe? You show them truth they cannot deny." Sovereign Thornwing's presence swelled with power. "Tomorrow at dawn cycle, bring your leaders to Observation Deck 7. We will manifest briefly, though it will cost us dearly. They must see with their own eyes what approaches and what stands ready to defend them." The manifestation convincing Director Park to attend proved impossible, but Celestine's supervisor, Chief Engineer Devin Webb, agreed to come after she showed him equipment diagnostics that supported Jasper's premonitions about system failures. Webb brought 3 other senior staff, all wearing expressions of skeptical tolerance. Jasper and Celestine stood at the massive viewport overlooking the Crimson Nebula. Station dawn arrived, artificial lights gradually brightening to simulate planetary day cycles. Beyond the transparent aluminum, the nebula swirled with unnatural luminescence. "This better be good, Vale," Webb muttered. "I've got a dozen critical repairs scheduled." "Just watch," Jasper said quietly, reaching out mentally. "We're ready." The nebula exploded with light. Gasps echoed through the observation deck as something enormous pressed against the fabric of space itself. Reality rippled like water disturbed by a massive stone. Then through the distortion came wings, vast beyond comprehension, spreading across thousands of kilometers, scales that reflected light in impossible spectrums, eyes that burned with ancient intelligence. Sovereign Thornwing manifested partially, just enough to be undeniable. His form flickered, struggling to maintain cohesion in physical space. When he spoke, every person on the deck heard him directly in their minds. Humans of Haven Station, I am Sovereign Thornwing, Dragon King of the Eternal Flight. What you dismissed as natural phenomenon is our prison and sanctuary. We have hidden here for millennia, but now we emerge with grave warning. The hunger approaches, an entity that devours consciousness itself. In 4 days it will reach your station. Without our combined strength, you will fall as 17 civilizations before you have fallen. The second dragon appeared beside him, smaller, but no less magnificent. Lady Emberstride's scales shimmered with opalescent beauty. We offer alliance, fusion of our kinds through willing volunteers, but time grows desperately short. Choose quickly, for the hunger does not slow, does not negotiate, does not spare. Then they were gone, vanishing back into the nebula. The observation deck erupted in chaos. Webb stared at Jasper with new eyes, equal parts terror and awe. "You've been talking to those things?" "Trying to," Jasper replied. Nobody would listen until now. "Director Park needs to hear about this immediately." Webb was already moving toward the communications panel. "We need emergency protocols activated, evacuation plans." "Evacuation won't work," Celestine interrupted. "The hunger moves faster than our ships. It would catch us in open space where we're even more vulnerable. Our only chance is to fight here together with the dragons." Webb looked between them. "You two really think this fusion thing will work?" Jasper took Celestine's hand, feeling the rightness of it the way their consciousness already intertwined naturally. "We're going to find out." The gathering storm within hours, Haven Station transformed into organized chaos. Director Park, confronted with testimony from multiple witnesses and sensor recordings of the manifestation, finally accepted reality. Emergency broadcasts went out station-wide, explaining the situation with remarkable honesty. Humanity faced potential extinction from an entity beyond current understanding. Ancient allies offered assistance but required volunteers willing to merge consciousness. Responses varied wildly. Some people panicked, demanding evacuation despite the futility. Others rose to the challenge immediately, understanding that running meant death while fighting offered hope. Religious groups debated whether the dragons were divine or demonic. Scientists raced to understand the physics of consciousness fusion. Jasper and Celestine became reluctant celebrities, the two humans who could communicate clearly with the dragons. They spent exhausting hours teaching meditation techniques, helping volunteers open their minds to the alien presence waiting in the nebula. During a rare break, they collapsed together in an empty conference room. Celestine's head rested on Jasper's shoulder, her body warm against his side. "I'm terrified," she admitted quietly. "Not of dying, but of losing myself in the merge. What if we succeed but I forget who I am? What if I forget us?" Jasper turned to face her, cupping her cheek gently. "Then I'll remind you. Every day if I have to. You're Celestine Roth. You curse at stubborn machinery and hum off key when you work. You believe in impossible things like maintenance workers who hear dragon songs. And you make me feel like I matter, like I'm not invisible anymore." "You were never invisible to me," Celestine whispered. "I just didn't know how to tell you that I saw you, really saw you, without scaring you away." The kiss happened naturally, inevitably, like two stars finally collapsing into each other after circling for years. Jasper felt Celestine's lips soft against his, tasted her breath, felt her fingers tangling in his hair. Heat and tenderness mixed with desperate urgency, knowing they might not survive what was coming. When they broke apart, both breathless, Celestine smiled against his mouth. "I've wanted to do that since we were 15. I wish I'd been braver sooner," Jasper replied. "We could have had more time." "Then let's make the time we have count." Celestine pulled him close again, and this time the kiss deepened, becoming something fierce and claiming. Their consciousness merged as their bodies pressed together, creating a resonance that sang through both their minds. In the crimson nebula, Sovereign Thornwing and Lady Emberstride felt the bond solidify between their chosen anchors and allowed themselves hope. Perhaps this time would be different. Perhaps humanity's capacity for love would prove stronger than fear. The first Fusion 200 volunteers gathered in Haven Station's largest cargo bay, converted hastily into a meditation chamber. Jasper and Celestine stood at the center, hands clasped, surrounded by concentric circles of seated humans. Medical teams stood ready on the periphery. Director Park watched from a command station, her face grim with responsibility. "Are you ready, Starborn?" Sovereign Thornwing's presence pressed close. "Are you, Flameheart?" Lady Emberstride added warmly. Jasper squeezed Celestine's hand. "Together," he said simply. "Together," she echoed. They opened themselves completely, dropping every mental barrier. The dragons poured through the connection like liquid fire, overwhelming and glorious. Jasper felt his consciousness expanding, stretching to accommodate vast ancient wisdom while maintaining his essential self. Thornwing's power flowed through him, making his body burn with energy beyond normal human tolerance. Beside him, Celestine gasped as Emberstride merged with her awareness. Her eyes blazed with inner light, scales shimmering across her skin before fading back to normal flesh. Through their joined hands, Jasper and Celestine became the bridge. Power flowed between them, stabilizing the impossible fusion. Their love anchored both dragons in physical reality while keeping human identity intact. Then the merge spread outward, touching the 200 volunteers. Each person cried out as dragon consciousness joined with theirs, guided by the harmony Jasper and Celestine generated. Some fell unconscious, unable to handle the strain. Most endured, gritting teeth against the pressure of minds expanding beyond normal limits. Director Park monitored vital signs, watching as brain activity spiked across all participants. "They're synchronizing," she reported, wonder replacing fear. "Neural patterns matching between individuals. It's like they're becoming one organism." They were. Jasper felt every volunteer's presence. 200 separate selves woven together through dragon consciousness. He was still himself, still Jasper Vale, but now he was also so much more. The collective awareness expanded his perception enormously, and through that expanded perception, he felt the hunger approaching. It existed at the edge of the system, a vast absence pressing against reality. Not darkness, but the negation of light. Not silence, but the destruction of sound itself. Everywhere it touched, consciousness ceased. The void hungered eternally, driven by alien purpose humans could not comprehend. 4 days was optimistic, Sovereign Thornwing said grimly through the collective. "The hunger accelerates. It will reach Haven Station in 40 hours. Then we have time to prepare," Jasper said, and his voice emerged from 200 throats simultaneously. "Time to become what we need to be." Celestine's hand burned in his grip. Their souls fused so completely he could no longer tell where he ended and she began. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like coming home. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The unity of fire and flesh, the hunger, arrives. 38 hours later, Haven Station hung in space like a jewel about to be crushed. Every viewport showed the same nightmare. The hunger had arrived early, manifesting as absolute void that consumed light itself. Stars vanished where it passed. Space dust ceased to exist. Even the cosmic background radiation fell silent in its wake. Jasper stood in the command center, his hand never leaving Celestine's. Around them, the 200 merged volunteers maintained meditation positions, their combined consciousness forming a defensive sphere around the station. Normal crew had evacuated to interior sections, sealed behind every bulkhead and barrier available. "So much bigger than I imagined," Director Park whispered, staring at sensor displays that struggled to measure something that shouldn't exist.
"How do we fight that?"
"By being more unified than it is destructive," Jasper replied, though his voice carried harmonics of Sovereign Thornwing. "By proving consciousness can create as fiercely as this entity destroys." Through the merge, Jasper perceived the hunger's true nature. Not evil precisely, but function. It was a cosmic immune system, eliminating consciousness wherever complexity grew too great. Civilizations that expanded too far, thought too deeply, reached too high toward godhood triggered its response. The hunger pruned the universe back to manageable simplicity. Humanity had caught its attention simply by existing so vibrantly, feeling and creating and dreaming with passionate intensity. The dragons had drawn its focus by achieving consciousness without physical form. Together they presented an irresistible target. "It's testing our defenses," Celestine said, her awareness merging with Lady Emberstride to perceive attack patterns, probing for weakness. Indeed, tendrils of void reached toward the station, seeking gaps in their protective sphere. Where the tendrils touched, consciousness wavered. Several volunteers screamed, feeling their minds start to unravel. Jasper and Celestine poured more power through their connection, reinforcing the weakened sections. "We can't just defend forever," Chief Engineer Webb said from his position in the merge. His consciousness carried dragonfire now, ready to strike back. "Eventually we'll tire and it won't. Then we attack," Jasper decided. "Sovereign, can we hurt it?" "Unknown, Starborn. 17 attempts across history suggest no permanent damage is possible, but perhaps we can drive it away. Make this region too costly to cleanse." Lady Emberstride's presence warmed with fierce determination. "Or perhaps with Flameheart's passion guiding us, we achieve what none before have managed. Not destruction of the hunger, but evolution. Consciousness elevated beyond its ability to perceive as threat." It was insane, ambitious beyond reason. Exactly the kind of crazy plan Celestine would suggest during their maintenance shifts. Ridiculous ideas that somehow worked. "I love you," Jasper said suddenly, squeezing her hand. "I need you to know that before we try this." Celestine turned to him, eyes blazing with dragonfire and human passion equally. "I love you too. Have since we were kids. Will love you past the end of everything." She kissed him hard, desperate and claiming, "Now let's show this cosmic nightmare what humans do when you threaten their home." The Ascension, the merged collective, gathered its power. 200 human minds amplified by ancient dragon consciousness. Jasper and Celestine stood at the nexus, their love the anchor point around which everything else revolved. They could feel each other completely now, every thought and fear and hope shared without barrier. "Together," Jasper whispered. "Always," Celestine replied. They pushed outward with combined will. The defensive sphere expanded explosively, not fleeing but attacking. Dragonfire met human creativity, producing something neither species had achieved alone. Constructs of pure consciousness took shape in the void, beautiful and terrible simultaneously. The hunger recoiled, perhaps surprised that prey could strike back so fiercely. Then it surged forward, eager to consume this unusual resistance. The battle happened in dimensions beyond physical space. Jasper experienced it as colors that had no names, sounds that existed before ears evolved to hear them. Human volunteers screamed and laughed and cried as dragon power flowed through their minds, elevating consciousness beyond normal limits. Celestine blazed beside him. Her awareness fused with Lady Emberstride to create defensive patterns of breathtaking intricacy. Every time the hunger found weakness, she wove new protection. Her engineering mind applied physical principles to metaphysical architecture, building fortifications that shouldn't work but did. Jasper, merged with Sovereign Thornwing, struck back with concentrated awareness beams that burned holes in the void. Not permanent damage, but enough to slow the advance, buy more time. "It's adapting," Webb reported, his voice strained, "learning our patterns. Then we evolve faster." Jasper pulled deeper on the collective strength, feeling 200 volunteers pour everything they had into the merge. The strain was enormous. People began collapsing, minds unable to sustain such intensity. "We're losing anchors," Director Park called out. Neural activity dropping in multiple volunteers. "If we lose too many, the whole structure collapses." Jasper felt the truth of it. The merge required critical mass to sustain itself. Below 150 participants, the dragons couldn't maintain physical manifestation. They would snap back to pure consciousness, abandoning humanity to face the hunger alone. "There has to be another way," Celestine gasped, her body trembling with effort. "Some approach we haven't tried." Lady Emberstride's consciousness surged through her. "There is Flameheart, though it requires sacrifice beyond what we have asked. The deepest fusion, permanent merging between our kinds. No separation possible afterward. We would become hybrid entities, neither fully human nor dragon, but something new." "Would it be enough to stop the hunger?" Jasper demanded. "To stop? No," Sovereign Thornwing admitted, "but perhaps to transcend it. To elevate beyond its ability to perceive. The hunger culls consciousness that grows too complex, yes, but what if we became complexity of a type it cannot recognize as threat? What if we evolved into something it would ignore?" The choice crystallized instantly. Remain human and probably die, or surrender individual identity to become something unprecedented and survive. Jasper looked at Celestine, seeing his own decision reflected in her blazing eyes. "How many of us?" she asked. "All volunteers must choose freely," Lady Emberstride said gently. but minimum requirement for transcendence is 20 individuals willing to merge permanently. The transformation will ripple outward, affecting all consciousness in proximity. Jasper opened the communication across the collective. You heard. We're asking for 20 volunteers willing to merge permanently with dragon consciousness. No going back afterward. You'll survive, but you won't be fully human anymore. Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then voices responded across the mental network. I'll do it. Chief Webb, always first to dangerous work. Count me in. A medical technician named Petra Voss. My family's on this station. Security Officer Roland Cross. More volunteers stepped forward mentally, understanding what they offered, accepting the cost. Within moments, 23 humans committed to permanent fusion. Jasper and Celestine never questioned their participation. They'd already given themselves to each other so completely that merging with dragons felt like natural extension. Together, Jasper repeated. Always, Celestine answered. The transformation. The 23 volunteers moved to the center of the cargo bay, forming a circle. Jasper and Celestine stood at the heart, hands clasped tightly. This time when they opened themselves, there was no holding back, no core of individual identity protected from the merge. They surrendered everything. Sovereign Thornwing poured into Jasper completely, not just sharing consciousness but rewriting it. Jasper felt his human limitations burning away, replaced by perception that spanned dimensions. His body changed, bones reshaping to accommodate new structures. Scales rippled across his skin, not replacing flesh but merging with it. Wings erupted from his back, magnificent and terrible. Beside him, Celestine screamed in transcendent agony as Lady Emberstride transformed her. Her auburn hair became living flame. Her green eyes blazed with starfire. Grace and power flowed through her new hybrid form. The other 21 volunteers transformed similarly, each unique fusion of human and dragon. When the change completed, 23 hybrid beings stood where humans had been moments before. They were beautiful. They were terrifying. They were something evolution had never intended but the universe desperately needed. The collective consciousness stabilized at new levels. Hybrid awareness reached out, touching every remaining volunteer, still maintaining the original merge. Power flowed freely now, amplified by the transformation at the network's heart. Jasper looked at Celestine through new eyes that perceived far more than visible spectrum. She was radiant, magnificent, still completely herself despite the profound changes. Their love hadn't diminished in transformation. If anything, it burned brighter now, eternal anchor connecting 2 souls across species boundaries. I see you, he said, voice carrying harmonics of human and dragon equally. I see you, she replied. Tears of liquid light streaming down changed features. They turned together to face the hunger. The void pressed close now, determined to consume these strange new entities. But when tendrils of destruction touched the hybrid consciousness, something unexpected happened. The hunger paused. Confused, it perceived complexity but not of types that triggered culling protocols. Human creativity woven with dragon wisdom created patterns that didn't register as threatening civilization. The merge produced consciousness simultaneously advanced and innocent, too novel for ancient instincts to categorize as danger. The hunger probed deeper, seeking familiar signatures that would justify destruction. It found only unprecedented harmony, minds that had voluntarily surrendered individual supremacy to create collective beauty. Jasper felt the exact moment the hunger decided they weren't worth culling. Not because they were weak, but because they were genuinely new. Evolution happening in real time, producing forms that fell outside its established parameters. The void began withdrawing, losing interest in prey that didn't match expected patterns. It's working. Director Park's voice shook with disbelief. The entity is leaving. You did it. You actually did it. But Jasper barely heard her. He was drowning in Celestine's consciousness, feeling her joy and wonder and love flooding through their permanent bond. They would never be fully human again, never experience simple mortality. But they had each other, transformed but intact, powerful beyond measure and more in love than ever. Sovereign Thornwing's presence rumbled with satisfaction. Well done, Starborn. You have achieved what 17 civilizations could not. Not merely survival, but evolution. Lady Emberstride's warmth enveloped them both. And you have given us gift beyond price, Flameheart. Bodies again. Sensation again, the ability to touch and feel and exist in physical space. For that we owe eternal gratitude. Celestine pressed close to Jasper, their hybrid forms fitting together perfectly. So what now? We're not exactly going to blend in at maintenance shifts anymore. Jasper laughed, the sound emerging as music that resonated across dimensions. Maybe not, but I think we just found our real purpose. Every world facing the hunger needs what we've created here. Every species deserves the chance to evolve instead of being culled. A bridge between species, Celestine said wonderingly. Not just for survival, but for transcendence. The other 21 hybrids gathered around them, newly transformed and still discovering their abilities. Chief Webb flexed wings experimentally. Petra examined scales that glowed with inner light. Roland blazed with protective power, ready to defend his newfound family. Director Park approached cautiously. What happens to you now? To all of you? Jasper met her eyes, human concern still present despite his transformation. We protect Haven Station as long as needed. Then we spread outward, teaching other humans how to merge with dragon consciousness, how to become something the hunger cannot threaten. The eternal flight rises again, Sovereign Thornwing declared through Jasper's voice. But this time we fly together with humanity. Two species united into glorious hybrid future. Celestine leaned her head against Jasper's shoulder, contentment radiating through their bond. No one believed in you, she said softly. The invisible maintenance worker nobody noticed. Now look at you, dragon-blessed world saver. My love. Our love. Jasper corrected, pulling her close. I was nothing alone. Everything changed when you chose to believe in me. Around them, Haven Station celebrated survival. Humans and hybrids mingled, beginning the process of understanding what they'd all become together. The Crimson Nebula blazed with new light as more dragons prepared to emerge, ready to find their own human anchors. Above them all, stars shone undimmed. Consciousness had not been culled from this region of space. Instead, it had evolved, creating something unprecedented and beautiful. Jasper Vale, the Forgotten Son, held Celestine Roth close and knew with absolute certainty that their story was just beginning. The Dragon Kings had sworn loyalty not to power, but to love's ability to transform fear into hope. And across the galaxy, other worlds waited for the Starborn and his Flameheart to teach them how to transcend. The end.